All right, well, welcome to our Wednesday night Bible study. We are working our way through the book of Genesis, and here we are. We are going to finish up Genesis chapter 31 today. Chapter 31. Chapter 31 is Jacob fleeing, Jacob escaping from Laban. He's trying to get out of there. And we've seen a number of things last week where he talked with his wives, Jacob that is, talked to his wives, said, we need to get out of here. There's a recognition on Jacob's part. There were the sons of Laban who were talking bad about Jacob, and he had heard about it, saying that Jacob has stolen all their father's wealth. Laban doesn't think that Jacob is a blessing to him anymore. Their relationship has changed, and probably a number of factors that contributed to that. And then, of course, the most important point is that God himself came to Jacob and said, it's time for you to leave. So Jacob got up, packed up, and he traveled out. And then we see what happened there as Laban is pursuing. He's going to come out and pursue Jacob. So let's pick up where we left off last week. Let's look at 25 through 42 as we continue through this unfolding story, almost like an unfolding drama, almost like a soap opera, right? All these things that are going on. The Bible is fascinating. It really is, isn't it? Even much more fascinating than some of these reality TV shows. We've got reality right here in the Bible. So fascinating stuff going on. All right, so starting in verse 25 says, and Laban overtook Jacob. I mean, he's traveling out fast. He's overtaken Jacob. Now, Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban, with his kinsmen, pitched tents in the hill country of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, what have you done? That you have tricked me and driven away my daughters like captives of the sword. Why did you flee secretly and trick me, and did not tell me, so that I might have sent you away with mirth and songs, with tambourine and lyre? And why did you not permit me to kiss my sons, my daughters, farewell? Now you've done foolishly. It is in my power to do you harm. See that? What was Laban's original intent? Probably not to be kind. He goes on to say, though, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. And now you have gone away because you longed greatly for your father's house. But here's a key. Why did you steal my gods? Jacob answered and said to Laban, here's just one thing. If your gods can be stolen, right? They're not very good gods. You need to get some different gods, right? You need to get the one true God. If your gods can be stolen, that's a problem. But that's a side note. Verse 31. Jacob answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. Here, clearly Jacob is fearful. Remember we talked about that? God saying, I'm with you. That'd be an assurance to him. Verse 32, anyone with whom you find your gods shall not live. In the presence of our kinsmen, point out what I have that is yours, and take it. Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, into the tent of the two female servants. Notice they're not even called wives in this section. But he did not find them. And he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them in the camel's saddle and sat on them. Laban felt all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, let not my lord be angry, that I cannot rise before you, for the way of women is upon me. So he searched, but did not find the household gods. And Jacob became angry and berated Laban. Jacob said to Laban, What is my offense? What is my sin, that you have hotly pursued me? For you have felt through all my goods. What have you found of all your household goods? Set it here before my kinsmen and your kinsmen, that they may decide between us two. These 20 years, here you go. These 20 years, he's been with them for 20 years. I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried, and I have not eaten the rams of your flocks. What was torn by wild beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it myself. From my hand you required it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. There I was, by day. The heat consumed me, and the cold by night. My sheep fled, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I've been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock. And you have changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been on my side, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God saw my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you last night. All right, there's a lot there. When Laban finally catches up with Jacob, he's in a confrontational mood, right? He confronts him about sneaking off and not allowing him to give, a big send-off party and to kiss his daughters and his grandchildren goodbye and all of that. Now, is Laban telling the truth? Well, probably not. I mean, he's a lying, deceitful kind of guy that's always been looking to get up and to get over on someone else, right? He's always looking that way. It's very likely that he doesn't care about his daughters at all, or their children. You remember how he treated them before. I mean, they're using them as bargaining chips, using them to get what he wants from Jacob in the past. This is all an excuse. You did this. I would have given you a big party. I would have sent you off the right way. This is all an excuse, right? The real issue is in verse 30. Why did you steal my gods? Remember? This is really the big key issue that's going on here. Jacob knows that he hasn't stolen any of Laban's things, right? Jacob knows that for sure. So he calls down a curse, and he tells Laban to search and to bring out anything that he finds that's his. Now, of course, the text tells us again that Jacob didn't know that Rachel had stolen those gods, right? He didn't know about it. So Laban makes a search of all of Jacob's things, and he goes into everyone's tents. He finds nothing, right? He doesn't find anything. When he gets to Rachel's tent, she hides. She hides the gods and lies to her father. She's really following in her father's footsteps, isn't she? Here's the thing. Had this been someone else that she was lying to and tricking and getting one over on, her father might very well have been proud of her. Great job, you did it, chip off the old block, you're following in my footsteps or something. But, of course, had he known what she did, he would not have been proud of her, would not have been happy, right? Now, in the end, he doesn't find anything. And Jacob now gets this righteous anger in him, right? He's getting all angry now. And he basically rebukes Laban. He says, show me what you've got. You got nothing. You would have, abused me. You would have done things to me, even today, if the fear of God and the fear of Isaac, my father, had not been within you. So, very interesting section here. Look at verses 43 through 55. So here's the ending of this chapter. So 43 says, after he's been rebuked, Laban answered and said to Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, The children are my children. The flocks are my flocks. And all that you see is mine. What can I do this day for these daughters or for their children whom they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be witness between you and me. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as pillar. Jacob said to his kinsmen, gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap. And they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jegar Sahadutha. Laban called it Jegar Sadahutha, but Jacob called it Gilead. Laban said, this heap is a witness between you and me today. Therefore, he named it Gilead and Mizpah, for he said, the Lord watch between you and me when we are out of one another's sight. If you oppress my daughters, or if you take wives beside my daughters, although no one is with us, see, God is witness between you and me. And Laban said to Jacob, see this heap and the pillar which I have set between you and me. This heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness. But I will not pass over this heap to you, and you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me to do harm. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, and the God of their father judge between us. So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac, and Jacob offered a sacrifice in the hill country, called his kinsmen to eat bread. They ate bread, spent the night in the hill country. Early in the morning Laban rose and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned home. All right, here's the final section, right? What's the final result of this meeting between both Jacob and Laban? Well, basically what happens is neither of them trusts one another. They don't trust one another. And really, they're not trustworthy, right? I think Jacob has learned a lot. I think he's come a long way. But again, I think Jacob has shown himself in times past to be untrustworthy. Neither man thinks much of the other. It is pretty clear. But they're going to make a covenant. They're going to make a covenant. Notice that there's eating involved with covenants. Sacrifices and eating and setting up of pillars, monuments, things of that nature. So they're going to make a covenant, and basically Jacob is to stay away, and Laban is to stay away. They're not meant to cross over this border. They want to stay away from one another. They've both had enough of each other. They don't want to be around each other anymore. So they're going to cut ties altogether. They don't want any dealings with one another. And they're going to call upon the God of heaven, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to be the witness. And basically, the point is, just because you're out of my sight, if you act treacherously or something, then the God of Abraham and Isaac is going to be there to witness what's going on. So they call in the God of the universe to be in the midst of this. But here ends that final section in the life of Jacob, where he has left Padan Aram. That whole portion of his life, those 20 years, have been spent learning some things. God has been growing him and blessing him materially and physically. But I think he's also been growing spiritually as well. I don't think he's where he needs to be, but he's certainly not who he used to be. He's been changed. So that's a good thing. There's some change going on here. And God has been faithful to him this whole time. God's going to continue to be faithful to him. We now are starting to transition into this later part of Jacob's life. And we'll look at that when we get back together, and we'll start in chapter 32. Remember, Jacob left the promised land because his brother was going to kill him. And he's been away for 20 years, but who knows if his brother is still angry with him. There may be some fear going on in the life of, in the mind and the heart of Jacob at this point. So, transition period. He's leaving one situation. He doesn't know if he's going from the fire pan into the fire, right? From the frying pan into the fire. He doesn't know. Could be getting bad. He should recognize and he should have some comfort that God is on his side. God said, I'll be with you. God hasn't lied to him. God hasn't left him. God has continued to bless him, even in the midst of everything that's been going on. But we will come back and we will look at that next week, Lord willing. All right. God bless.